What's up, HR fam? So before we get into the build, I got a couple things, but as always, use the bookmarks below to fast forward as you please. First things first, if you're more of a reader and love my builds, then go and check out my written up guide over at MMO Minds, link down in the description. Alright, so the HR Academy. About that. Unfortunately, it didn't end up working out. I've been getting a lot of requests, which is awesome, but a lot of people looking to join would have been going from Guildhall 20 boons over to Guildhall 4 boons, which would have literally taken us months and millions of AD to have gotten us anywhere close to getting any kind of real boons. So instead, I decided that it would be best to just keep it simple and, as always, help anyone with how I play my build, to like doing dungeons or even just talking strategies or options to go with. After having played in HR for 2 years and trying multiple Paragon paths and powers, I picked up a thing or two. But yeah, you can always get to me via comments below on Xbox. Again, my gamer tag is Jace Foyaz, and you can also get to me on Kick. Oh, and you can ask me a question live on Twitch. I'm now a featured streamer on Neverwinter Unblogged, which is, if you haven't heard, you should definitely go check them out. The site again, link in the description below. But my overall goal and a couple other streamers on Twitch are basically aiming to grow the Neverwinter community, to get more involvement. So I'll constantly be asking anyone watching to join in on some dungeons and skirmishes. But if you would like to see me stream, then definitely check out the link below to get signed up for notifications for when I get live. Oh, and if you are new to Twitch, there's 2 other big streamers I definitely think you should consider watching. They have really good Neverwinter content, and they both play on PC. Their names are Cali Gold and Team DRD. So throughout this video, I'll be highlighting the updates to my hybrid combat build and my new full PvE combat build. But I want to make one thing clear: my intent with this video is to provide you guys with information so that you guys don't need to spend respec token after respec token finding what you guys like and what suits your character best. So with that, I have even more links. I know, a lot of links down in the bottom of the description for other channels and amazing YouTubers that have done and given a lot of information for Hunter Ranger builds. But for me anyway, ever since I changed to Combat Stormwarden from the Trapper Pathfinder build, I haven't been wanting to change back at all. But anyways, let's get started with the changes to my hybrid build, which is still my main choice as it is. It makes it easy to switch between PvP and PvE, and I'm still putting out a hella good amount of DPS on both of them. So not much here except for the following. My feats for the most part have stayed the same, but the most important one to consider here is Skirmisher's Gambit. So before I had put in all 5 out of 5, and I've gotten back and forth between using 5 out of 5 in Skirmisher's Gambit or going all 5 into Fluid Hunter. And the reason is Skirmishers is a huge gamble. You're losing 10% of your crit chance to gain 50% crit severity. You'll actually see that I use the full 5 in my full PvE build, but it's only because I know I can comfortably secure that 10% loss with everything else. So for PvP, I'd much rather have the survivability than a little bit more power or crit. Eventually, when my character can sustain more critical chance, switching my PvP main hand to Whirlpool and stacking crit severity, crit chance would be the way to go. But until that happens, until I can, comfortably fit that extra 10% that I'm losing, Fade Touch and getting as much survivability, which is HP, is what I'm going for. Alright, so for gear, I actually swapped out my Prestige chest piece because this new chest piece gives you a lot more hit points. So I'm actually really liking it. I am losing some tenacity, but I'll have to see how it works. I'm hitting right above 230,000 hit points and hoping to get more. But let's move over to the armor enchant, the Elven Battle. This one is extremely important to have. I know some people have talked about moving over back to negation, but there's always going to be stuns and there's always going to be smoke clouds, probably most likely, and repels and trapper builds everywhere. So alright, so for the PvP, I mentioned it before, but HP is extremely essential for staying alive. It procs, it doesn't proc, but it works with your wild medicine and your mount insignia bonuses, and it helps you keeps you super tanky. So mount insignia and mount insignia bonuses. So as you can see, I'm using Slayer's Redemption. After killing an enemy, receive a heal over time. That one's extremely good, especially for PvE. I keep it for both. Oppressor's Reprieve, and this goes back to the Elven Battle. Whenever stunned, knocked, or immobilized, receive a heal over time. Vampire's Craving, when you lifesteal, receive a heal over time. So having high lifesteal is really good. Survivor's Blessing. When you deflect, you receive a heal over time. Again, high deflect is of course with the aspect of the Lone Wolf. If you haven't already seen my last video, make sure you check it out in the link below. And then Cavalry's Warning is a new one I have because I finally have an orange mount, which is the Lion. The Lion is really good to have in PvP and PvE. It basically gives you a shield, and it's a little confusing the way you need to proc it. You basically need to be like 1 or 2 feet. You have to be as close as you can to the target or any enemy, and then press up on the D-pad and it'll bring up the bonus. But basically this Cavalry's Warning gives me a buff, a 10% buff to my power, recovery, armor pen, crit, defense, deflect, regen, and lifesteal. So if you have a mount combat power, make sure you're slotting Cavalry's Warning. No matter if you're DPS or defense class or whatever the hell you're doing, Cavalry's Warning is definitely the way to go. Again, I slotted Prosperity in all of them. Prosperity gives me HP, and the other one I don't really need, but it's I think it's XP gain, which isn't important. But and other places that you can slot HP are obviously with your gear. So again, I went over to the I changed the chest piece out. I have the armor kits in for hit points. I'm using boons, all the boons and feats that I'll go over in a minute. And then of course enchants. All the enchants, all the defensive enchants that I have are radiants, which are slotting HP in for me. And then I just recently got these two beauties. I have the sudden deflect +5 and the sudden lifesteal +5. I don't think I could have gotten any better rings, because this deflect not only procs with multiple boons and feats that I have equipped, but also the lifesteal ring gives me an additional 10% lifesteal chance for 10 seconds every 30 seconds. It gives me that 4,000 or 10% lifesteal. I do have other orange double defense rings, but at this point, with the amount of HP that I have slotting now, it's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of like a good thing and a bad thing. Like, I can slot this lifesteal and I'm gonna get an extra 10% lifesteal, or I can slot a little bit more HP. So for right now, I'm sticking with the lifesteal ring. Now, as far as enchants, this is one of the changes that I wanted to make sure I got in before the double RP comes for Xbox. Right now, or currently, I was using Azur's to slot in to get more crit, but and I feel like not many people paid attention to this. I'm going to be going over to Brutals, and so the reason is the single attribute enchants, such as, like I said, Azur's, Radiant, Silveries, and Dark enchantments only provide 1 stat, and when at rank 12 only provides a total of 700 of that. So for each enchant, I only get 700. But the double attribute enchants, such as like Brutals, Savages, Vicious, Black Ice, and a couple other ones, provide 420 of both. So the Brutals, for instance, give you power and crit, and it gives you at rank 12 420 of each. So that gives us a total of 840 when you hit rank 12 for the total stats that you get for 1 enchant. So compared to the single enchantment, obviously you're getting 140 more. But then when you multiply that by, you know, the number of slots that you'll have for offensive and defensive slots, you can get well over like 1,500 additional stats. Another reason I wanted to make sure this video got out fast is my plans to do for double RP for the Orcus set. I'm going to be going for the Valhalla set for PvP, and then I'll be switching out the Orcus Swan, the artifact, over to the Vanguard's banner, because that'll give me more HP and power. Unfortunately, there's no more crit and power artifacts for whatever reason. But yeah, I'm still going to be keeping my Ogmas as my main, and then whenever I need to, I'll switch over to the Imperial Rod to have that extra root. As far as powers for PvP, guys, I would definitely just stick with what I said for the last video, which is Boar's Charge, Thorough Caution, and Fox's Cunning. These 3 work extremely well for PvP. So another thing that's really important is Aspect of the Pack, and I didn't know this until I watched Sumi's video, but if you actually don't fill in Aspect of the Pack to the rank 4, when you have it at 3 out of 4, it'll actually work for the offhand power. So what's that mean? Every time your allies are around you, you're getting increased amount of damage. So this one actually works versus all the other ones that I think I've said in my last videos. So for your PvP and PvE Paragon powers, and for your offhands, for your artifact offhands, make sure you're using Aspect of the Pack, because again, this one actually works. always make sure, as far as your main hand, always make sure you're using split strike. But before we move over to PvE, there's just one last thing I want to cover. For whatever reason, I didn't think about it, but the really good thing about PvP is to have in the wards. I know a lot of people give a lot of hate for the PvP wards, especially the drains, but I found it really useful to slot the rank 2 Trickster Rogue and the Hunter Ranger wards into your overload slots. But why these two? These two classes, the Tricksters and Hunter Rangers, are the ones I've seen that have been killed. Like, I've been killed by the most. So using these wards coupled with the Stronghold ward reduction here, this turns out to be a really good combo, especially with the importance of the Lion, like I said. The other thing I want to say really quick is the stat balancing. So the boons that I'm showing you here are actually, I changed them slightly because of the I wasn't paying too much attention to the diminishing returns that you get when you exceed 1200. So basically when you go over a certain stat, so for instance action point gain or stamina gain, if you go over 1200 you're actually going to be losing out versus putting it in another slot. So what I mean is, once you hit over 1200 you'll start getting less of that stat than you would if you would put it in something else that hasn't hit 1200 yet. So more explanation and details in the link below. The new set bonus that you get from Storm King's Thunder, the pants and shirt, work extremely well for both PvP and PvE. Extra deflect, extra life steal, depending on what you have. Read again the stats. Alright, moving over to PvE. So this is still part of the hybrid build. So I'm way behind on PvE gear, but I'm still putting out a really good amount of damage. I'm still rocking both Elven and Dragonflight. I'm highlighting them really quick, but I recently was able to restore these Vivified Raid Gators, which are the shoes that I got from running heroic encounters in Bryn Shander. As far as the rest of the PvE gear, I'm hoping to get the other 3 relic pieces from FBI, but if I'm not really successful with that, I'm just gonna wait until Mod 11 drops, and those relic pieces should be coming out of a chest at the end. You'll still have to use the keys that you get from the campaign, but you should have a higher chance getting it from the Spell Plague map that they're coming out with. For weapon enchant, if you have a Vorpal, definitely use it. The critical strikes are essential for any good DPS class, and same goes with Hunter Rangers. And the Vorpal simply raises the damage you put out, but only when you hit critical strikes. Again, that's the orange numbers, not the yellow ones. So if you are lacking in critical strike, make sure to stack Azures into your companion rings or your companion's equipment slots, because that'll actually raise your crit chance a lot. Oh, also because when I mentioned in the beginning that I watch a lot of other YouTubers, I learn as much as I can, especially from Sumi's videos. He said the Orcus set isn't performing as well as a Dex belt, so I'm actually going to be switching over to the Dex belt for PvE. And then for the neck piece, I'm still not completely sure. I might be going with the Valindra's neck because it looks pretty good, but again, I'm not 100% on that. But while I'm on the topic of double RP, I would encourage anyone and everyone to focus on getting rank 12 bonding runestones. Without my companion, I don't do that much damage. I'm powerful, but not as powerful as I would be with full rank 12 bonding runestones. My companion provides me with so much power, it's ridiculous. So definitely, if you're going PvE, make sure you focus on refining those bonding runestones for your companion. As for the armor enchant, I'm using a lesser Soul Forge. I would recommend to just leave it as is at lesser. Basically, as you level it up. Basically, as you level up the Soul Forge, all you're doing really is decreasing the time that resets and increasing the HP when you get revived. And I think you do some damage, but it's really not noticeable. It's not needed. I don't think it's worth throwing ED into unless you really care about making your idle level higher or you just want to be completely maxed out. Moving on, let's look at the mount insignia bonuses. So here are my mount insignia bonuses. As you can see, I haven't really been paying too much care into the insignias. As you can see, most of them are blue and green, but these are still definitely the best, in my opinion, the best ones to go with. I'm not completely going all out PvE in this one, but I'm keeping in Slayer's Redemption for that heal over time. It works really well when you're kind of squishy in PvE, especially with the full PvE setup I'm going to tell you in a bit. But Going with Slayer's Redemption, Protector's Camaraderie. Whenever your companion attacks, you gain power and defense. Assassin's Covenant. Basically, it decreases your defense, deflection, and lifesteal, and it gives you a 10% increase to your power. You lose 10% of your defense, deflection, and lifesteal, and you gain the combination of lost stats as power. Wanderer's Fortune. Defeating an enemy has a chance to drop a bonus reward, so even as I'm approaching getting higher up in the getting fully decked out, I still need, everyone still needs refinement. Cavalry's Warning. Again, this is the same one from PvP. Whenever you use a combat mount power, receive a buff. And that's a 10% buff to like all your stats, so that one's really good. Other things to note, I use Lyriel's Bell, which it brings your companion back to life, and I think it makes him immune for like a minute or so, a few seconds. The Pocket Pet Companion is really good. It has a chance to give you the +5 crit severity. It's like a random, it's kind of like the coin, which also the coin is really good. Timora's Lucky Coin, that's really good. It gives you 300 of a stat. I think it's 300. And then of course, pots if you need them. Let's talk about the powers and the rotations real quick. For PvE, I'm actually using Long Striders and Gushing Wound. This encounter is actually really good. I usually start the encounter this way. So I do Long Striders, and then I jump forward. And then as soon as I hit Long Striders, I want to hit them with the Gushing Wound, because that's the one that's going to put out the most DPS. So the whole point of combat is that it basically works off burst damage. So you hit that Long Striders, you get that bonus of damage, and then you hit them with that Gushing Wound. And then usually I follow up with Throw Caution, and then finally end up with the Plant Growth on the floor. This is usually my rotation whenever I hit a single target DPS. For multi-target, I usually start with the Long Striders, and then I just go straight into Throw Caution. The reason I do that is you want to use your Gushing Wound on the target that has the most health. So if I'm looking at like a huge group of targets, I usually hit Throw Caution. That way I'm not wasting Gushing Wound on someone that would need like a bigger splash of damage on. And then of course, after you do those encounters, you're hitting with your at-wills for 2 to 3 seconds. Oh, so one thing I want to make sure I mention on this is if you have, especially with Mod 11 coming out, I have the relic weapons, as you can see. I have the main hand and the offhand. Of course, it's not all the way to orange, but it's really not necessary to get it orange. With the recent changes that they did for the stats that you get as you level it up, it's really not needed. You can get as much stats. I think you're just missing like a couple points if you don't get it to orange, so it's not that big of a deal. If you guys don't really care about getting it orange, I would definitely recommend just getting it to level 59 and just keeping it there. There's there's no reason to get it to orange unless you really wanted to. But on that note, when Mod 11 comes around, I am going to get that new set, and then I'm going to actually make the main hand artifact weapon class. For one of the weapons, I'll make it clear the ground. So the big thing about PvE is what I do, I slot my clear the ground on my left trigger for multi-targets, and then for my right trigger I put in, of course, Split Strike. Split Strike obviously does more damage, but clear the ground will do more damage when there's targets behind and on the side of you. I say that because Split Strike only works in the cone. So if I'm if I'm looking at three enemies in front of me, I can easily kill those 3 characters with Split Strike. If I got 3 guys behind me, 1 guy on my left, and a couple guys in front of me, clear the ground is going to do a lot more damage. Well, not as much damage, but it'll kill them faster, obviously, because I don't have to hit another encounter to then move back and then use Split Strike again. I can just start with clear the ground. So the reason why I mentioned the other weapons was because I plan on using the clear the ground artifact or offhand artifact weapon class, whatever it's called, during mobs. So during during dungeon fights, until I get to the bosses. When I get to the bosses, I'm probably just gonna, and I've done this before, I just switch to my other set of main hand and offhand weapons, and then I use that for single target. For my PvE Paragon powers, I'm gonna be using Aspect of the Pack and Blade Storm. Okay, so I think that's pretty much it for the hybrid build. So now I want to talk about the full PvE combat build that I'm showing you guys. So I debated even showing this because it's really similar to the hybrid build. It's just taking off all that tinkiness that I'm putting in for PvP. and I'm just making this build a lot stronger as far as damage and DPS. So again, I'm focusing completely on crit, power, crit, then power. I'm using a Vorpal, so we're focusing on crit severity, getting as high as crits as we can. Again, we're going to be using Skirmisher's Gambit all the way to get the crit severity really high. But again, if you're not getting the crit that you're getting, that you need for the oranges to proc a lot, you should be putting Azures into your offensive slots for both yourself and your companion. That way, whenever your companion hits, you're getting that critical chance increase. And then of course the Rising Ring of Precision, and then Sudden Precision. But then, as always, if you're at that percentage where you're getting enough crit chance, then start throwing some power in there. So again, for PvE, same stuff that I just talked about for the hybrid build. I'm going to be using that Dex belt. I'm going to be using, honestly for right now, the Sudden Rings, the Sudden Ring of Precision and the Brutality Ring work really well with combat, because this build again works on burst damage. So getting that burst power and burst crit works really well. I'm not stacking HP, of course, I'm stacking crit. I'm putting crit armor kits into all my armor slots. So I'm getting an extra 200 crit on each of my pieces. So my headpiece is an extra 200, my chest, my arms, and my feet. And then same thing with the artifacts. Again, I'm doing, I switch over, and this goes again for the hybrid build, I switch over to my crit and power. I switch over to my crit and my power artifacts. Alright guys, I wanted to get this to you guys before double RP. And then, of course, if anything, contact me with all the links and stuff that I showed you below. And as always, take it easy. Thank you for watching. And again, if you want to catch me on Twitch, information's down below. But make sure you sign up for notifications, so when you get notified when I go live. All right. And then, as always, the YouTube as well, you can get notified. Hit that little bell, subscribe, like, do whatever you like to do. And thank you guys for watching.